Tell me about a time you were the boss of an international hitwoman for 2 years without realizing it. Courtney was one of my best employees, always hit her deadlines, never complained about anything. It started on a random Wednesday when I got a text from Courtney saying there was a family emergency and she wouldn't be able to work that day. I told her no problem and to take care of whatever she needed, because that's just what you do when someone says emergency. The next day she didn't log on either, and I figured the situation must have been more serious than I thought, so I gave her space. By Friday, I started getting a little worried because she hadn't responded to any of my check-in messages, but I also didn't want to be that manager who harasses someone during a genuine crisis. The weekend came and went with nothing, and by Monday morning, I knew something was actually wrong, because Courtney had never missed a single day of work in the entire time I'd known her. I sent her a text to make sure she was alright, and to let her know that her job was safe whenever she was ready to come back, but still nothing. I decided to just call her directly, even though we'd only ever communicated through messages and video calls. The phone rang 3 times and then someone picked up, but it wasn't Courtney. It was an older woman who sounded confused, and when I asked if Courtney was available, she said, "I don't know who that is, but you're calling a landline in a nursing home in Ohio." I apologized for the wrong number and hung up. I went through our HR system to see if there was any other contact information and found absolutely nothing useful, because remote employees basically just exist as email addresses and profile pictures. I sat at my desk staring at my screen for a solid 10 minutes trying to figure out what to do next, and then I realized I could just Google her name and see if anything came up. I was terrified I'd find an obituary or a hospital record, but I had to know what happened to her. I typed her full name into the search bar and hit enter, and my entire understanding of reality collapsed in about 3 seconds. The first result was a news article, and I saw her name right there in the headline. Obviously, this article was about a different person. Courtney Thomas is a common name, right? But then I saw her face in the thumbnail, the same exact picture from her employee profile, the same smile I'd seen in dozens of video meetings. I knew before I even clicked on it that whatever this was, it was bad. I had to read the headline 4 times before I believed it was real. Courtney Thomas, 34, had been arrested at an airport overseas after an international investigation connected her to at least 7 contract killings across 3 continents over the past decade. I scrolled through more articles, and each one was worse than the last because she was allegedly part of a network that carried out high-profile assassinations for wealthy clients, and she'd been using remote work as her cover because it let her travel constantly without raising any red flags. I googled her name 3 more times, hoping I'd somehow spelled it wrong the first time. I checked 5 different news sites because maybe this was some kind of hoax or fake article. Every single one had the same story with the same face staring back at me. International hitwoman apprehended after decade-long manhunt. I immediately called my boss to tell him what happened. "Do not say a word to anybody," he responded. 30 seconds later, I saw her profile in our systems get deactivated. The emergency text she sent me was apparently the day authorities closed in on her and she tried to flee the country. All those times she mentioned visiting family or taking working vacations, she was actually carrying out jobs. Actual jobs. The kind where someone ends up dead at the end. I thought about every single conversation we'd ever had about project timelines and quarterly goals, and it all looked completely different now. She'd sit there in our one-on-ones talking about work-life balance while apparently spending her weekends doing things I couldn't even process. I remembered how she once told me she loved her job because it gave her the freedom to pursue her passions, and I genuinely thought she meant hiking. I still don't know if Courtney Thomas was even her real name, but I know she has my home address from the company directory.